There is no God but Allah. Allah is great.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the second in the series of True Peace, the Secret of Life. We're looking at how to explain the beauty of Islam to people and have a look, even maybe for yourself as a refresher, what Islam is all about. It's a look into the world's fastest growing religion and the most sustainable religion in the whole universe. That's what we've been looking at. And last week we looked at how there are different layers that make up Islam, and we looked at how to find a sure hope, that a sure hope in Islam consists of believing in Allah, that there is a day of reckoning, and that we need to believe in all the messengers that were sent by Allah. Today we are going to have a look that in the Quran it tells us that there is this sure hope, and this sure hope lies in obedience to Allah. It says in the Quran, I believe in Allah and all His messengers and all His attributes as they are, and I accept all His commandments in totality, verbally affirming that I testify by heart. This in Islam sums up everything that we looked at last week, that you believe in Allah by all His names and attributes. Remember, we're not talking about 99 different gods. Some people have said to me, but you Muslims, you have 99 gods. There's only one God. But there are descriptions or attributes to Allah. They describe Him. Like people will say, Areeb the sporty, Areeb speaks loud, Areeb has blonde hair. Those are attributes. You see, that I am not three different people that I've just described. Those are attributes to me. So the Quran, we see how beautiful it describes. It sums up what we sort of spoke about last week, about having a sure hope. My belief in my Creator, my belief in my religion is based on a sure hope. My hope and belief is that I believe in Allah, in His angels, in His books, in His messengers, in the hereafter, and in divine destiny. Good and evil is from Allah, and the resurrection after life is also from Allah. The Quran speaks clearly that all these things are the recipes for success. You see, some people say, well, where did you come up with all those ideas? I didn't come up with any of these ideas. They came from the Quran, laid out in the correct formula, exactly stage by stage, step by step, how to gain success, how we need to believe first in Allah, then that there is a day that we will have to understand that Allah knows everything that is going to happen in that day, that there is messengers were sent, angels were sent, prophets were sent, and that there will be a day of reckoning. So the core of Islam, if we want to have a look at it, if we have to sum it up, is pure monotheism. Remember all that we spoke about last week, pure monotheism? And pure monotheism, the result of it is perfect justice. So simple. If we have pure monotheism, like we did last week and we spoke about, if we put those points into practice, the result of it is pure justice. The end result. So what you pour in is what you get out. If you pour in pure monotheism, you get out pure justice. Now many people will say, well, there's no such thing as pure justice or pure monotheism or pure truth, because one person's truth may not be the same as somebody else's truth. That is when you're trying to be argumentative. But if you want to find, there is always a pureness. If you want to find pureness, you put it through many forms of straining. You drain it, you strain it, you get out all the impurities, and what you're left with is pureness. So when you take out all the impurities, what's left is truth. What's left with is justice. What's left with is pure monotheism. Islam is that filter that allows us to strain out all the impurities so that we are left with purity. So this is something that is very, very important. The foundation of the entire model and thoughts and actions in Islam is the belief in pure and total monotheism after it's gone through all the filtering processes. The characteristics of Allah, divinity, that He is divine, that He is all-powerful, self-sustaining, that He's the protector, and that He's the sovereign. In the Quran it says, for His divinity, He is Ilah. Like this is why when you become a Muslim, we say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. We are saying that He is the divine. In the Quran, it says in Surah Ikhlas, that's 112, it says the following, Say, O Muhammad, He is Allah, the one, the self-sufficient, the absolute. He begets not, nor is He begotten. There is none co-equal unto Him. That sums it all up. You don't need a more technical definition. You don't need a more scientific definition. You don't need some clever guy coming up with one-liners to define who Allah is. It couldn't have been written better. It could only have been written by the being who's speaking about Himself, and that is Allah. If a man had written this, it would have never been so clear. It would have been ambiguous. It would have been confusing. It would have gone in circles. Listen to this verse again. It says, He is Allah, the one, the self-sufficient. Means He has no need for anything. In the Old Testament, God has to sleep. God gets hungry. God gets violent. God roars. God sneezes. These are things that are not characteristics of God, because He is self-sufficient. He has no needs. He doesn't get sick. He doesn't have a flu. He doesn't get colds. Doesn't need sleep. He doesn't need to eat fish. He doesn't need anything like that. He's the absolute. What is more absolute than absolute? There's no more absolute. When you say this is absolute, means there's nothing more that you can add to it. How beautiful the Quran puts it. This is why we know that this book is not a human invention. Even if they'd have taken 10,000 years to write a book that would be the perfect religious document, it wouldn't even have come close to how the Quran describes who Allah is. Just that alone is enough. When I first heard Tawheed explained to me, that was enough for me. I didn't need deeper explanations. I didn't understand why Muslims fast. I didn't understand why people go on Hajj. I didn't understand any of that. But Tawheed was so common sense, so logical, so understandable, so mathematical that I had to accept it. There was no other way. Then the second part of the characteristic of who Allah is, which helps to give us the secret to peace in our lives, to have absolute pureness in our life, to get to that pure state that we want to be at. And one of the other attributes that we need to look at is that Allah is the protector. We looked at Allah in His divinity, how we looked at and saw that in this beautiful verse, how it sums up Tawheed so beautifully, and how Islam makes so much sense when we look at who Allah is. So much sense. But one of the other characters, if we look at a diamond, we move it around, there's so many different facets to it, so many different ways that the light sparkles on it. One of the facets of who Allah is that He is the protector. That is so comforting for all of us. Sometimes in this world that we live in, we need that protection. We need someone to look after us. And humans will always let us down. They'll always fail us. However, when we hear this from the Quran, that Allah is our protector, it should give us comfort. It should give us peace of mind. In the Quran it says, so let them worship the Lord of His house. He provides them with food against hunger, with security against fear of danger. In a way, it's made it in a way that we as human beings want to understand it. We can never look after our bodies. It is Allah who looks after our bodies. We have to be careful that we maintain our bodies, but it is Allah who looks after our bodies. There's nothing that will happen to our bodies that He does not prescribe and dictate and allow to happen. However, we are the ones who look after the upkeep of the body. Therefore, you can't just eat a chocolate every 5 minutes and expect not to put on weight. You can't not do exercise and think that you're not going to fall down when you run out of breath. You have still got to maintain that body, but He is the protector of that body. And He is sovereign. Allah is the sovereign. When you think the word sovereign, what do you think of? You think of the one who has command, and none other has command other than that being. So if you say the sovereign of the country, you mean the person that has the highest power. So Allah is the sovereign. There is no co-equal to a sovereign, then He's no longer sovereign. He is the sovereign. He is the ultimate. The buck stops there. Nothing goes higher. That is the highest position you can get. In the Quran it says, the command is for none but Allah. He has commanded that you worship none but Him, because the straight, true deen, the straight, true path that is to be found through Allah alone. And that is found in Surah Yusuf, ayah 40. You know, when we look at the characteristics of who Allah is, we see that He is all-powerful. He has knowledge of all things. He is the sovereign. But so many times in the history of mankind, mankind has forgotten this. And He has been the cause of His own destruction. When we look at the history of mankind, we see that mankind has been destroyed many times, and Allah has permitted and allowed this to happen. In fact, many people think this is very unfair. But we have to understand that Allah is just, and He's not corruptible just. He is absolute just. And we'll deal with that after this break, and we'll go into more detail to explain that to you in detail, inshallah.
All praise to Allah.
ولله الأسماء الحسنى فادعوه بها.
Al-Aziz, the Almighty. Al-Wadud, the All-Loving. At-Tawwab, the Acceptor of your return. Al-Razzaq, the Provider. Al-Raqib, the All-Watchful. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. To Allah belongs the beautiful names. فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. So call Him upon them. To understand more of Allah's beautiful names, join me, your brother Majid Mahmoud, on my new series about understanding Allah's beautiful names on Peace TV.
الله لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى.
Don't miss the chance to comprehend the seamless explanation of Allah's beautiful names in Understanding Allah's Beautiful Names. Every Sunday at 7 p.m. and repeat telecast at 12 p.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Let's come under the shade of the scholars.
So the issue is a problem of knowledge.
Asim Al-Hakim.
Why do people do bid'ah?
Imam Malik said, whoever claims there is a good innovation in the deen,
Salim Al-Amri.
he is accusing that Prophet Muhammad did not convey the message.
Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad.
If you know that the Prophet ﷺ did something and I do something else, you have to follow the Prophet ﷺ. Don't follow me.
Abdul Rahim McCarthy.
But if each one believes his goal is to please Allah, to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Abdul Rahim Green.
I think this really is to do with your internal state.
Where does the Quran and Sunnah point to?
Muhammad Al-Sharif.
We have to follow what Allah and His Messenger said.
Let's imbibe from these scholars the fruitful solutions for the problems of the world.
Which one we would take and which one we would leave?
Question to every Muslim.
In the shade of the scholars. Every Sunday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. and repeat telecast at 5:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
All praise to Allah.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. You're listening to me, Areeb Islam, and we're dealing with how to find the purity and peace that we find in Islam by true submission and understanding what the concepts of Islam actually mean. And we said before the break that destruction is caused and permitted by Allah, that these things are ordained by Allah. And many people might say, well, this is unfair. How can a loving God, a creator, want this type of thing to happen to humankind? You know, there is something called cause and effect. If you cause something, there is an effect. If you start a fire, don't cry when you get burnt. There are consequences to our actions. Everything that we do has an action or a reaction to it. Everything has a cause and an effect. Sounds like we're having science class here, but this is what I'm trying to get across to you. So if Allah permitted the destruction of certain people in the history of time, at different periods of time, it was for the greater cause of helping people understand what is more important that was to come. We look at rains and floods, tornadoes, sound waves, all these things are recorded in the Quran. The destruction of the nation of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the destruction of the nation of Lut alayhi salam, the storms of stone, Noah alayhi salam, we think of the flood and the rain, earthquakes, all these things were by the permission of Allah. He had an understanding of exactly what He's doing. And sometimes we look back in our human linear existence and we think this is unkind or unjust. But Allah has the beginning and the end in His hands. He understands the consequences. Imagine for a moment, if you could take a certain moment out of history, you could remove a certain moment from history. Say we had to get rid of Adolf Hitler from history. The results of removing him would change the entire course of history. Things will not be the way they are now. We would not know a yardstick of protection. If Hitler was removed from our history books and we had a history without him, what would we know about value of life? Because he was in that point in history, we have more value for life. We are more cautious about who we allow to be in control of our governments, how much power we give to the United Nations, how much power we give to our president and prime minister, because of Hitler. If he was removed, there may have been much worse consequences in life. We only see a small fraction of what we think we understand, but Allah sees things in totality. He sees the big picture. We just see a snapshot and we make a judgment on a snapshot. We don't understand the full picture of time. So we have to be cautious about using sweeping statements and saying, well, that is unfair. How can a God of love do something like that? Allah has all things in His hands, and we only see but a small glimpse of the bigger picture, which Allah knows. One of the other important things to find peace, other than the fact that we have understood Tawheed, we looked at the fact that He has the right to destroy or raise or collapse any nation or any group of people. We also have to understand, for true understanding and closeness to Allah, is to believe in the angels which He sent, His messengers, those beings that were created with a specific task that they fulfilled. Now, before we get into this, it's interesting to note that Christians also believe in angels. So do Jews and many other religions in the world. But the significance of the fact that the Jews and the Christians believe in angels is what the byproduct of their misunderstanding of angels has caused them throughout their theology. Trying to explain to people angels. I mean, if you're a Christian and you're watching this, you know exactly what I mean, because it's very confusing for you. An angel, according to your doctrines, is that a being was created by God without choice. He had no choice. He could not make a choice. He could not decide, today I don't want to obey that order. Today I am going to sit on the beach all day and I'm not going to do what Allah told me to do. This is what a Christian has been told to believe. It's been taught in his doctrine that an angel is without free will. It does not have the ability to make a free will choice. It's programmed. It's like a computer. The computer can only do what it's programmed to do. It's not going to walk out of here and turn into a BMW. It's not possible. The angel in Christianity has no ability to choose. However, they believe that an angel called Lucifer chose to disobey God. An angel is not able to disobey God. So the idea of an angel in Christianity having choice but has no choice is one of the many contradictions. But in Islam, it's not like that. An angel in Islam is only permitted to do what it is told to do. There's not going to be a rebellion sometime in the future or in the past where angels overthrew each other and had a fight with each other and and took a third of the heaven's angels with them, as is recorded in Christian doctrine, not in the Bible, but in Christian doctrine. So what is the task of an angel? Well, first of all, like we said, he is obedient. He does exactly what he's told to do. His job is to perform worship. Worship is by obeying whatever he's told to do, obedience. If you're obedient to Allah, the byproduct of obedience is that your life becomes a form of worship. You start to worship Allah not only in the words you say, but in the deeds that you do, the way you manifest your life. The next point, or the next task of an angel, is that he records the deeds. Remember, we've spoken about in previous episodes that the hand of an angel is held when you do something wrong, to give you an opportunity to repent. There are angels that record our activities, our deeds, our words, everything that we do. They take our lives on the day that we leave this half a second existence to go into the next world that lasts forever and ever. They are angels who are responsible for doing that. There are angels who manage paradise, heaven and hell. For those who are listening, they have their duty. They are not demons and little pitchforks like we see in cartoons. These are angels who have the responsibility, and they take the responsibility seriously. And they are beings who bring revelation to mankind. These are some of the duties that angels are required to perform in their day-to-day tasks for humanity, because Allah has ordained them to be His messengers, to carry His message to the different prophets over time, or to those people that Allah has set aside with a special task. Then, of course, after we understand what angels are, obviously the angels have to have who they're giving the message to, and those messengers are prophets. The leaders are living examples of the Sharia. These leaders, these prophets, are living examples of how we can live the Sharia, the laws. Sometimes we get scared when people hear the word Sharia. The non-Muslims out there, maybe even some of the Muslims, you might be getting worried, oh, Sharia, here we go. Sharia is law, the thing that protects you, the thing that makes sure that you're safe at night, the thing that makes sure that you're getting a decent salary and not working as a slave. The same law that makes sure that your wife has rights, the same law that makes sure that you as a kid or a young adult has rights. That's the thing that you're scared of. So the prophets are leaders and living examples of the law, the Sharia. And so the prophets, all of them came with the same message and the same guidance. You didn't have Ibrahim, may Allah be pleased with him, giving a different message to what Adam, may Allah be pleased with him, gave the message. They gave the